is the new artifact set with farming for but the Fontaine craftable weapons good. Should I fish for the new sword? Is Linny better than Hu Tao? What is the best new battle pass? Can I farm the new set for Zhao? Can you post a video already for Fury now? Are these new battle pass weapons better?
Enough. Enough. Please. Let's talk about it. Hello there, Flip here, and today we have sort of an interesting video. At first I planned to space out all these videos separately, so an individual video for the weapon, craftable characters and so on, but then I didn't really like any of the videos. So I just decided, why not, let's just go over everything in one video. So yes, we will be covering close to everything that can improve your account, from the new artifact sets, all of the weapons, and some of the characters. But before you do that, as always, if at any point during the video you're entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin's meta, and I'll try to keep you updated. Now without further ado, let's dive right in. If you want the extreme TLDR of if both the new artifact sets are worth farming for, despite the fact that I am the most prominent official glazer imaginable, I honestly don't think either of the new sets are worth the grind for most of the existing characters currently, but I would still say it's relatively safe to farm these sets if you care about the upcoming characters or have Linny. And let's just talk about them in more depth, starting with the golden trope set. For official, it's for every team it is going to be official's highest DPS set all the time, which is amazing, so people don't have to bother asking what set you should use on official in X team, because she has a gazillion different options. And depending on buffs or whatever, people have it on average as around a 15% increase to official's personal damage. But like, official isn't a hyper carry. Besides single target quicken scenarios, so like boss content with a kitchen aggravate team, I doubt you will even feel the impact this set has. Outside of quicken teams, official does like 20% of the team's damage in single target, so a 15% buff to this again is not actually that impactful to where the set is now a must farm, drop everything you're doing. Like hell, even when Emblem was dropped, it wasn't good just because it was a damage increase, but for characters like Zhangling, Jingqiu and Beidou, it made them significantly easier to build, as you get 4 ERs just for having the 2-piece, and overcapping the ER you need isn't as big of a loss, as it would give you some damage bonus, whereas this set is just purely damage. Also, a lot of people already have ridiculously cracked 2-piece sets for official, and getting a set on par with that can be quite hard. So yes, while this set is a sizable increase, if you already have a pretty good set for official, I don't think it's worth going out of your way just to farm it for her if no one else on your account wants the other set, unless you are just that dedicated to the official agenda or don't actually have a build for her yet. Moving on to another character that can use this set, it's going to be Yai. But unlike official, I think there is actually just negative reason to farm this for her, even just ignoring how negligible the damage gain is, which is debatable. One of Yai's biggest strengths is her front load. Her burst hits like a truck, and you can set it up quite early in your rotations, and this set does nothing for her burst at all. And if you want to look at the damage gain, over a sustained rotation it's relatively equal to Gilded on Quicken, and only gets slightly better the less you use your burst. But the problem is that this kind of also assumes you aren't playing a team like Yai Aggravate and just on-fielding her, because the set is a damage loss in that case. So the only scenarios in which this is actually an upgrade is pretty rare, unless you aren't using Yai and Dendro, in which case what is wrong with you? Now lastly, to the 4 people that still use Albedo, this will be his best set all the time from what I've seen by like 5%. So congratulations, but it is just the official issue to where it's not like Albedo is doing an overwhelming majority of the team's damage. If you already have a solid husk set, going out of your way to farm this actively for your Albedo just isn't worth the resin. And for all the other niche users of the set, it again comes down to this. So for the, I'm sorry to all the French people watching this, actually French people, I'm not sorry, we are now going to be covering the Maréchaussé Hunter set. I actually do like this set more than the trope set, as giving crit rate makes this easier to gear for a lot of characters most of the time, and the characters that would want to use this all happen to do a lot of their team's damage, making it more worthwhile to farm. And this set is practically Linny's signature set. There's no real reason not to farm it for him. And now, this set should realistically be a damage increase for Zhao, but the problem with it is just kind of, how the fuck are you going to use this set? Unless you are Zyolx, the amount of resin you would need for this set to be an upgrade to your Zhao is ridiculous. Zhao has a crit rate ascension, so at base, without any crit subs, you're getting 60 crit rate. And if you have weapons like Jade Spear or Deathmatch on your Zhao, it's going to be ridiculously hard not to overcap with this set, to where Vermilion would just be better. But for all you Homa Zhao mains, this is going to be a good boost to you. I really do hope there aren't any Zhao mains that are potentially streamers going to completely reshape the Vermilion they've been forming for the past year, just for another minute upgrade to their character. And no, I am not courting Ziox. Hu Tao has some issues with this set, but there are certain scenarios where she can use it. But it's gonna be pretty conditional. If you are a VV Tao main, instead of just playing the easier, more brain-dead team, if you start a chamber and get hit like once, when you activate Tao's skill and Bennett's buff, that will be a HP change. And then when Bennett heals you again, that will also be another HP change, giving you 2 stacks. And if you get hit at any time in the next few seconds of getting these 2 stacks, you'll have 3 stacks. And it'll be able to last your whole rotation. And if you can do this, then it should be an upgrade. I also saw Genshin Noir propose that you could also use a prototype Amber Sucrose or Yanfei at R1 for a small amount of healing if you're running Bennettless VV Tao. But whether it's worth gimping your teams for that is going to be up to you. And I guess for this knockoff Twilight protagonist and Dragon Cock over here, the Hunter set also looks to be quite ideal for them, but I will not elaborate on that just yet. Overall, currently the new sets don't seem to be that worth farming if you already have existing good sets for these characters, but I do think with the addition now of the strongbox that farming these sets for potentially new characters and just strongboxing the old sets you need is not that bad of an idea. With Fontaine, there's also a chance we get a support that can drain HP that will make the Hunter set potentially more viable on more units, but that is just headcanon at this point, and there's no guarantee on that. Also, if you plan on going for the Hydra Orcon, which you should, just look at her, there is a very high chance she will use one of these 2 sets. No more talking about these fucking resin robbers. Let's talk about actual guaranteed things like the free-to-play weapons, starting off with the swords. To explain the craftable as basic as possible, when you use a skill you get an attack boost, and something called the Bond of Life that needs to be healed off. And when it's healed off fully, you get another attack boost up to 300 additional attack. And honestly, this weapon is pretty good in isolation, but there are a lot of practical issues, like the fact that it rules off anyone using Bennett as their sole healer. Also, it gives attacks so no hard EM scalers like Alhaithab want it, and then Aika kind of just has another craftable that is better and more comfortable. So the only character that can really use it is Keqing, in which the weapon is relatively on par with some of the lower refined 4-star options, which is nice if you've just started building your Keqing. And the weapon can also be used quite well on Lynette, assuming you meet energy requirements. But if you don't, we turn to the other free sword, which is the Ferryman. I don't want to harp too much on this weapon, but it is essentially a more greedy Favonius, giving you a boatload of ER on the person who equipped it. So basically anyone who would want to use Fav benefits from this weapon. Compared to the other fishing reward, I don't think it's as good as the catch to warrant the effort of getting it all the way to R5, but just getting like 1 or 2 copies and you'll be fine. Also, the weapon is absolutely 0 out of 10 on the drip analysis. We should have gotten a bigot instead. Moving along, the title Shadow Claymore is basically all Claymore characters that use Bennett or ruled out, but on a Eula Mika team this can be her best free to play option. And looking at the other craftables, I'd rather just get an Archaic that is less conditional and can also be transferred over to more characters. So yeah, as of now there is 0 reason to get this, but there is a reason to get the next spear, which as you guessed, the rightful reward is another Zhangling weapon. Wait, sorry? It can't be used on Zhangling? If you don't have a Favonius Lance, Candice, Mika, and Yaya can use this weapon pretty well. If Yaya mains were looking for an actual upgrade, Rejoice, as this catalyst is really good for her, giving some attack and overall elemental damage, which is nice. And it actually just gives her a really strong budget option, even competing with Widza on average. So if you're playing any Yaya team with a healer, you can honestly look into crafting this. Lastly, we have the bow. Okay. This bow is actually pretty solid, it's just that no bow user can really consistently get the pass with the proc, except Linny, and will be Linny's best budget option, if you have nothing for him. Prototype Crescent does exist, I guess, but you guys are not me back in prime Fortnite days, you are not hitting those weak points, so just go with this bow. But what I find so funny about this weapon is that if you have nothing else for Fischl, and you have C4 Fischl, she does actually heal herself with her burst. So on Bennett teams or teams where you don't have a reliable healer, you can actually get around 50% uptime on this bow and it will be solid. Worse than Stringless even at R1, but it looks to be okay. And then for aggravate teams, if you have a Baizu or Yao Yao, this weapon is about equal to an R1 Stringless for her. So do with that information what you will. So massive TLDR is that the craftable sword is pretty mid, getting a few refines of the Ferryman isn't a bad idea if you like Fav swords. Don't even bother with the Claymore, Catalyst is really good and the bow is okay. Now for those of you who aren't broke, I mean, for those of you who like to make horrible financial decisions, we have the Battle Pass weapons, and these are actually really good this time around. The Wolfhang is a sword that gives elemental skill, crit rate, and damage, and is generally just better than the Black Sword almost all the time. This sword is really good for the quicken carries Al-Hytham and Yai. I mean, I'm not wrong, but Yai doesn't wield a sword, unfortunately. I'm talking about the fake cat girl. And actually, this is going to be Kaching's best 4-star, well, assuming equal refines to Lion's Roar. So depending on how many battle passes you want to buy, this could be a noteworthy upgrade to your Kaching. And this is the exact same case for Al-Hytham, where it generally is going to be his best non-5-star option, especially with higher refines. Okay, no, I better not see any of you Harbinger Dawn players typing. You are not that guy. None of you are getting 100% passive uptime. Stop coping. And assuming you meet ER requirements, Jingcho, Lynette, Kaya, and so on can use this weapon really well. So overall, this sword is just superior to the Black Sword, which is funny because the Claymore, the talking stick is never, ever worth using. Even if you have R5'd every single battle pass weapon, just get another Serpent Spine. This is always just a downgrade to the Serpent Spine. Please do not even consider getting this. Next, let's go over the Spear, the Ballad of the Fords, which just gives you a fuck ton of EM. Even at R1, this is kind of just going to be Hu Tao's best in slot 4-star, being relatively close to Homa at R5. Same case with Sino. If you play Reverse Melt Rosaria teams with Kazuha, it's also going to shine there as well. Burgeon Toma teams can also use this to great effect, but it's kind of iffy as this means dropping Ketane, which gives you energy, so it probably isn't worth the trade-off. And balance is restored because of course our Lord and Savior Jangling can use it too. Now for the Catalyst Sacrificial Jade, alright, listen, come here. A bit closer, we aren't strangers. Look at this weapon and tell me who the fuck. I guess you can cope with Baizu. For now, and going off of my dreams, this seems to be the only viable option for Donkey's Child. So if you plan to go for the bitch made dragon and you buy the battle pass, this is a solid pickup. And now, to round up all these weapons, the bow is pretty shit. It seems to be it seems to be single target, which is the main thing holding it back, honestly. And even then, Linny has the craftable bow, which is good for him. Tignari has slingshot, and Gonyu has Hamayumi already. And then even for Tartaglia, he has the other battle pass bow, Viridescent, which is better for him. Overall, the Spear and Sword are top picks, the bow and Claymore are not worth the effort, and the Catalyst is situational. Now, to close out this video, we will gloss over the characters released in this version. If you want me to talk more in depth about my feelings on them, please leave a comment and I'll respond. I did underestimate Linny, but even then I don't think it was by that much. He is just another good whatever carry, but it's not like his numbers are anything groundbreaking. Now for his sister Lynette and Linny's taunts are actually good, which is surprising, and Lynette is going to be a Sucrose and Kazuha downgrade, and her main issue comes from the fact that her grouping with her C1 sucks. She can replace Kazuha or Sucrose as a VV flex slot, which is fine, and you can also slot her into 3 Nemo teams quite comfortably. And as a rare C6 Lynette owner, I really love her double Onimo teams, and they've given me the best results paired with Kazuha. Their brother Fremine Hydramshi is actually really valuable because we now have definitively the worst character in the game, and with that, we are done. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on 4.0, I guess, as I'd love to hear it and I respond to almost every single comment. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.